जुड़े हुए दिल के मकां फिर से बसाएंगे हम, दर्द के बाजार से आंसू खरीदेंगे, उजड़े
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. The time is 2 p.m. and we shall begin the learning journey as usual that happens every Saturday at 2 p.m. So with us today is Lakshmi Subramani, who happens to be my B.Pharm college senior at Government College of Pharmacy, Bangalore. Lakshmi, if you can wave the hand for our participants. Hi, Lakshmi. Thank you for joining in. Thank you. So Lakshmi happens to be my college senior and she has done her B.Pharm. She comes with more than 18 years of experience in the field of corporate contract research organizations. Lakshmi is currently the Associate Director and Learning Partner, Global Learning and Change Management at Labcorp, and she is a proud pharmacist. She has completed Executive Leadership Certification from Stanford University Graduate School of Business. She is a leader from the Global Learning and Change Management team, collaborating with the BU leaders in providing learning strategies and solutions to India, APAC, and global teams. She is an active member of Healthcare Businesswomen Association and leads Women Empowerment Network India. Lakshmi supports women empowerment initiatives across the globe. She is a strong believer of women empowerment and provides counseling to mothers returning to work to overcome their challenges. And I'm sure a lot of pharmacy ladies who are on a career break would love to interact with Lakshmi and reconnect back even after the session. For all of you who have registered today, you'll be getting the LinkedIn link of Lakshmi as an email after the session and also the recording of this session. So make use of this session as much as possible and do reconnect with Lakshmi. She might be a helpful connect to help you connect back to your corporate world. So with this short intro, I now welcome Lakshmi to take over the session and help us understand more about contract research organizations and what kind of opportunities do they offer to our pharmacy professionals. Lakshmi, over to you.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much for setting up this forum and also inviting me for this session. So really very glad to be connecting with all of you today, team, and I'm really looking forward for an interactive session, right? So of course, in the beginning, I'll be talking more, and at the end, I really would love to hear your questions and see how we can help you get there. So thank you so much once again, Manoj, for creating this forum. So before I jump into the session, so there are a few questions that I wanted to ask all of you. And Manoj has already provided a brief intro about myself, so I'm not going to talk about myself again. So
No, Lakshmi, please, Lakshmi, sorry to interrupt you. You may please talk about your story as to how after B.Pharm you landed into CRO, because not many people know that even after B.Pharm there is a career opportunity in CRO. Yeah, please.
Yeah, sure, Manoj. So that is part of the session that I have planned. So when I talk about the different departments in CRO, so I'm going to share my story of how I entered into the CRO.
Perfect.
So that's where I think I will fit in. So as Manoj said, so I'm currently with Labcorp, and I am leading the global learning and change management team for India and the APAC region. And as you see, I mean, when I say global learning and change management, it is L&D. So if you are thinking she's done B.Pharm and now she's into L&D, so that's how my career has progressed, and which I would love to share with all of you, to look out for the different opportunities we have, not just within the CRO industry, but any place where you go to. So there will be a lot of opportunities out waiting for you, and it's up to you how you want to create your careers and how you want to craft your careers, I would say. So we'll talk about that. And coming to myself, so I am Manoj Senior. So I did my pharmacy, that is B Pharm, in Government College of Pharmacy, and proud alumni of GCP. And so I'm in Bangalore. So my husband also works for a CRO. We are competitors now. And my husband also was in GCP. So that's the connect we have. So we are very well connected with Manoj. And personally, I have a daughter, 9 years old. She is into 5th grade now. So that's a little bit about my personal aspect. So on the professional front, Manoj has already spoken enough, so I'm not going to go back. But when it comes to the storytelling, I'll definitely do, because that is something I would love to share with all of you, to understand how you can progress in your careers as you step into any industry. So you can relate it to any industry. So today we are talking about CRO, but any industry you get into, so there will be lots and lots of opportunities for you. So with that, so I'm going to share my screen, and I request all of you to please pick up your phones. Okay, so just for this activity. So I just wanted to make it a little more interactive. So I'm trying to use some platforms here. So Manoj, please let me know when you're able to see my screen.
So participants, please participate in this activity. This will help us do better, and it will make the whole webinar session more interactive. And the more we interact, obviously, the more we learn, right?
So Manoj, are you able to see my screen?
Not yet, Lakshmi, not yet.
Okay. Okay, so let me share again.
That specific screen you may share after clicking on the share screen button.
Okay.
Yeah, it is visible. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Manoj. So for a minute, I request all of you to please grab your phones and go to a browser, any browser, Chrome or Google, and just type in www.menti.com. Okay, so please pick up your phones and enter www.menti.com. And when you enter here, it will ask you for a code. And here you see the code already. So the code is 38914534.
Even I'm doing that. So participant, please do that. It will help us interact. Go to www.menti.com, menti.com, and then type in the code 38914534.
Yeah.
Yes, we started getting this.
Yeah. And here you see the first question. Are you a student or working professional? And there are 3 options that are available here. So first one is a student. Second one is a working professional in CRO, working professional in non-CRO. Okay, please provide your responses here, team.
Yeah.
So as you see, the numbers are getting displayed here as the participants enter their options. Okay. So Manoj, how many participants we have in today's session?
We have 18 here, and I'll have to check how many are watching on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm just doing that.
All right. So maybe I'll give a couple of more seconds for you to enter your responses.
Yeah, so all of you please enter so that we know, so that we can interact better and we know the clear picture of what kind of audience we have. This will help us dive deeper into the topic.
All right. So I don't see responses being increased. So I think we'll stop here with this question. So I see there is a good mix of students and working professionals who are working in a non-CRO, right? So I think that's good. So moving on.
Yeah.
So this is my second question to all of you. What do you expect from today's webinar? So there are again 4 options that I have provided. Understand basics of CRO, explore career opportunities in CRO, understand CRO in detail, already working in CRO, joined out of interest.
Yeah. Participants, please keep responding. Even those who are watching on YouTube, please respond.
Those who joined just now, you have the web ID here, that is www.menti.com, and the code is 38914534.
Go to menti.com and respond. Please do not put in the chat box. We won't be able to get the clear picture here. Use the code 38914534 once you go to menti.com.
All right, looks like only 8 participants are providing responses, which is okay. So here I see the responses: explore career opportunities in CRO, and then we have understand CRO in detail. Okay, so that's good. So this is what I wanted to know from all of you, just to understand the audience and what is your expectations. So I think we are good. So with that, let me quickly go to the slide deck. And Manoj, if you can please confirm.
Yeah.
When you are able to see my screen.
Yeah, it's perfectly visible. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Manoj. So our theme, as Manoj mentioned in the beginning, and all of you might have seen on the LinkedIn or on the Facebook. So today's session is about the contract research organization, and in short form, we call it as CRO. So most of the times people get confused, and CRO means clinical research organization. No, CRO means contract research organization. And in today's session, we are going to provide an overview. So it's going to be a very high level overview, because I don't think 1 hour will just be enough if we have to do a deep dive into each of the department. So we are going to provide a high level overview in terms of what CRO is all about, and what are the different functions or groups available here, what are the different career opportunities, and what happens actually in a CRO. So that's what we are trying to focus. And of course, at the end, we'll take the questions. And in between, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat window. But I'll be looking at all the questions at the end. Okay. So coming to the definition of CRO, and this is from the GCP, Good Clinical Practices. So it is a person or an organization, so which could be commercial, academic, or other, contracted by the sponsor to perform one or more of a sponsor's trial-related duties and functions. So as the name states here, so we say contract research organization. So it could be a pharma company or a biotechnology company or even a medical device company. So they are any clinical trial related activities will be contracted out to a CRO to perform the clinical trial activities, which could include right from the preclinical evaluation till the post-marketing surveillance. So we get into contract with different pharma companies, biotechnology companies, medical device companies, and it could be a full service or it could be a part of the service. So I'll come to that at a later point in time to explain how that will all work out. But for now, just remember that CRO is an organization which will help any pharma company, biotech or medical device company to run their clinical trials, and it could start from the preclinical evaluation till the post-marketing surveillance. So you should all be thinking about, when pharma companies are inventing the molecules, why they need to go to a CRO, right? So here is the answer for that. So as you know, there are a lot of major players in India and also across the globe when it comes to the CROs, right? And they have a lot of expertise, and they have all the skill set, technology that is required to run the clinical trials very, very efficiently. So when our research is contracted out to a CRO, so the overall drug development cost will reduce, because the efficiency of the CROs is much more higher than the pharma companies, because we are into this repeat business where we continuously offer this service to different clients. And also when it comes to the resources, so when I say resources, it could be in terms of technology, or it could be in terms of the employees or the talent that we have within the organization. So we have variety and diverse talent within the organizations, which will help run the clinical trials very, very efficiently. Thereby, it will help to bring a molecule to the market and also at a lower cost rate. So that's why most of the pharma companies or the biotech or the medical device companies reach out to the CRO for these services. And also when it comes to the whole process, so there are set SOPs that every CRO will follow, which is aligned to the regulatory requirements. So that makes the overall drug development process much, much easier. And in that way, the CROs will definitely help these pharma companies or the biotech companies to simplify the overall drug development process. So that is another reason why these companies will reach out to the CROs. And also when it comes to the overall process, so it eases the process of drug entry into the market by taking care of regulatory requirements. So as I said, there are a lot of regulatory requirements that one has to follow when we are working on any clinical trial. So GCP talks in detail about what are the regulatory requirements that we need to look into. And when we go to different countries, so there are a lot of different regulatory requirements that one has to follow. So depending on the location where the clinical trials are run and depending upon where the molecule is being marketed, so there are certain regulatory requirements we have to adhere to. And the CROs have the knowledge and they also have the capability in terms of the resources spread across different locations across the globe, which will make the entire process much, much easier rather than when the clinical trial is run by the pharma company or any other company itself. So that's why most of these companies or the pharma players or the biotechnology companies reach out to the CROs to run the clinical trial process. So when it comes to the services offered by a CRO, so as you see here, so CRO touches every milestone or every phase of the clinical trial. So now here I'm not going to talk about what are the different phases of clinical trial, and because I'm hoping that all of you are familiar with what are the different phases that are in clinical trial. So if you look at it, so there are three important phases that we are looking into. One is the discovery phase, development phase, and the commercialization phase. And CRO can offer its services at any point in time, right from discovery till the commercialization. So if you look at the breadth of the service that is offered by the CRO, so a company, like say if I take pharma company A, so they might reach out to a CRO just for like say services in the discovery phase. And some of them might reach out to a CRO company during the development phase, and it could be just like say for phase 1, it could be for phase 3, and maybe just for the post-marketing surveillance. So it really depends on the need of the pharma company or the biotech company on what services they are looking forward to. And also they can go for full service. When I say full service, end to end. So that's how the CROs can really make a difference in bringing the molecules to the market sooner. So coming to when we look at the detailed overall process of services offered by a CRO, we primarily divide this into 4 stages. So first one is the pre-award. So if you look at the image here, we talk about 4 stages here. The first stage is the pre-award. And this is the phase where the pharma companies or the clients will reach out to us for the request for proposal. And then once we go through the bidding process and all the study risk assessment and bid defense meeting is all done, then it comes to stage 2 where post-award startup activities will be done. So post-award startup will be done by a CRO who would have won any of the trial or the project when I say that. And once we have decided or worked upon the post-award startup activities, so then comes the stage 3 where actually the process of the clinical trial will begin. So stage 1 and stage 2 is primarily the preparation mode, and stage 3 is where we are actually working on the clinical trial process. And then comes the study closeout process where we have worked on everything. So the patient data is in, we have cleaned up all the data is ready for review, and then we'll be able to submit it to the regulatory bodies. So there are primarily 4 stages that we are looking into, and any phase of the trial that we look into, so it has to go through all these 4 phases. So if I go back to the previous slide here, I told you that some of the sponsors might just need the support in the preclinical stage. So even if it is just a preclinical stage, so we have to go through this different stages, because we need to ensure we are prepared to pick up that project, we have to ensure that we have the capabilities within this organization to ensure we are offering those services to the client, and also ensure that from the budgeting aspect, from the finance aspect, everything is taken care of, and also ensure that we have enough resources in terms of the technology and also staff that will cater to the need of the sponsor. So coming to a little bit details about each of these stage. So I'm going to talk about it at a very high level for you all to understand. So in the pre-award stage, what happens is the client, it could be a pharma company or the biotech company, or it could be a medical device company. So they might have a molecule or a device for which they want to run the clinical trial. So what in every organization, we have the BD team, that is the business development group, or the sales group, we call it as. And they'll be in regular touch with all these clients. And whenever such opportunities come up, so we get the request for proposal. So when I say request for proposal, so it is like for the services that we are offering, we have to come up with a proposal. When I say we, it is CROs. The CROs will have to come up with a proposal in terms of what is the overall strategy we have in terms of the ideation and operational strategy to cater to the requirements that the sponsor has. So henceforth, I'm going to call the pharma companies and the biotech companies as sponsors so that it makes our job easier, right? So whenever we get that request for proposal from the client, so the BD team will sit and come up with the ideation and the operational strategy design, where we look at where we are going to run the clinical trials, what is the size of the clinical trial, what is the costing involved, what is the staff that needs to be aligned to this project, do we have the staff to cater to this requirement, or do we have to hire? And if I'm going to hire, is it going to be, I mean, is it a like say 3 years project, 10 years project, what is the continuity of the staff that I need to have on this project? And also we also look at the study risk assessment. So we also don't want to have the business conflict of interest, like say if we are working on a similar molecule with another client, and where we might have worked on a contract which says okay, we cannot work on a similar molecule. So we also evaluate that business conflict of interest and ensure that we are prepared for the bid defense meeting. And what happens in the bid defense meeting is all the different CROs. So it is not only one CRO that is participating in the bid defense meeting. There will be multiple CROs. So and more, all of them will go through the similar process to come up with the request for proposal and share their proposal during the bid defense meeting. So there a lot of conversations will happen. All of the CROs will present to the clients, and based on the client experience and based on what the client needs, so they choose the CRO. So there's a slide that I'll talk about on what are the criteria on which client will select a CRO, so which will help you understand. So after the bid defense meeting is over, so the client will typically choose a CRO with whom they want to make up a tie with, okay, and then they will award the project to that specific CRO. So now let's assume we are a CRO and we have won that project, okay. So that's when the post award startup, that is the stage 2, will actually begin. And it's basically a transition from pre award state to the post award state. Okay, so here in this phase, what typically happens is, so as you all know, when we think about the clinical trial process, so we have the investigative sites that are involved, where the patient recruitment happens, and that is the primary activity that everybody has to do, right? So the organization or the CRO will start looking at the site selection, and they'll also look at the pre-site visit, and also ensure that we have all the requirements that are catering to the client requirement, okay, or the specifications in terms of the technology or the employee. So we evaluate all of that during the post-award startup. And we also work on any regulatory submission on or the essential document collection that is required to run the trial in as per the regulatory requirements. And we also put together a project team and a study team to ensure that we come up with a plan for the project. So any project that is awarded to a CRO, it is must to have this project management team where they will work on each and every activity. They come up with detailed timeline in terms of milestones of different phases of the project and how we are going to achieve that. And they also collaborate very closely with the different departments within the CRO to ensure that everybody is aligned and we are ready to kickstart the project. So that is all about the stage 2 or the post-award startup. Then moving on to the stage 3, which is study management and maintenance. So this is where the actual trial happens. So this is where, so we have already identified the sites, we have already trained the staff at the site, we know with whom we'll be working with, we have identified the study teams in the CRO. So everything is set up. In stage 3 is when the actual trial happens, and where the patient recruitment will start beginning, and then we'll have the EDC platforms where the data will be collected. So we'll have the monitoring visits by the clinical operations team to ensure that the trial is run in an ethical manner, and also ensure that the staff at the site is equipped with all the technologies that they require, right? So, and also within the CRO, there are different departments that come into picture, who is responsible for review of the data that is being submitted through the EDC platforms, raise the queries, and there is also safety reporting that's happening. So there is a statistical team that helps in statistical analysis, and there is finance team that helps in finance governance throughout the project, and we have project managers who will help us with the project governance. So there are a lot of different teams within the CRO coming together to ensure that the study is being conducted as per the agreement that we have had with any of the clients. So this is all about stage 3, or the study management and the maintenance team. So then comes the last stage of the trial, which is closeout. So during the process of stage 3, so as I said, many different departments will come together. But stage 4 is all about ensuring that we have locked the patient data, we have ensured that all the data is clean, and we have all the reports required to submit to the regulatory team. So we have to ensure that if there are any scope changes, like say whenever we work with a sponsor, we come up with a scope document. So where we define what are the activities or what are the services that we are going to offer to this client. So throughout the study phase, we have to be very vigilant in identifying if there is any out of scope activity that we are doing. So that happens throughout the different phases of the trial, and ensure that everything is recorded. And if there is any protocol amendments, that needs to be taken care of at every stage of the study, and ensure that study is clean and good to go to submit to the regulatory authorities. Post which there is an approval process by the regulatory authorities, depending on the cost benefit ratio, or how efficient the drug molecule is compared to other molecules in the market. So this is the whole life cycle of a project when it comes to a CRO. Okay. So if you have any questions, team, you can start putting them in the chat window, as I said. So now moving on to so some of the different points that you should understand when it comes to the CRO. So you all must be thinking now, like say if I am the client and if I'm giving my project to a CRO, so then my job is done. So CRO will work on everything. They have all the expertise, technologies, people, the SOPs. So I can give my molecule to a CRO and I can sit freely. No, that is not how it works. So ultimately, sponsor or the client is going to be the authority or the person responsible to ensure the clinical trials and the duties and the functions are carried out in a ethical manner, okay, and as per the regulatory requirements. So though the sponsor is giving the contract to a contract research organization to run the clinical trial, but the ultimate responsibility will always lie with the sponsor, right? So here, as I said, if I go back to a couple of previous slides where I talked about the different phases of clinical trial. So as you saw there, as I mentioned there, so the sponsor may transfer any or all of the sponsor trial related duties and functions to a CRO, but the ultimate responsibility for the quality and integrity of clinical trial data always resides with the sponsor. And the CRO should ensure that they implement measures by including the quality assurance team and the quality control team in every phase of the trial. Okay. And any trial related duty and function that is transferred to and assumed by a CRO should be specified in writing. So the contract or the scope of work that we create in the beginning of the study should be very detailed enough to explain what are the trial related duties and activities that is being handed over to contract research organization. And within a contract research organization, again, we might have sub vendors. Like say if I am a CRO, I might have vendors with whom I'll be working with. So we have to ensure that all of that will also be captured, because every data point that we are handling within a clinical trial data is very, very confidential information. So we can't even talk outside about with which client we are working with, what are the molecules that we are working with. So any employee of the CRO industry cannot talk about all of that, right? So all of this should be clearly captured. And imagine if I am, as a CRO, if I am uh, transitioning, or if I am giving one of the portion of the activity to a sub vendor, so then that also should be clearly mentioned in the scope of work, or the document contract that we create in the beginning of the study. Okay. And then sponsor at every point in time will be responsible to ensure the oversight of the clinical trial duties and functions carried out on its behalf. So now sometimes we might have client audits that also being conducted. So every CRO will have an internal audit team, and the sponsors can also do an audit. And we have regular calls with the sponsor to discuss how the project is going, provide project updates, so that way they are familiar with what is happening on the trial. And also at the same time, if they want to run any audits at any point in time, so there'll be planned audits that will be planned. And sometimes there could be ad hoc audit also that can be conducted to ensure that the clinical trials are run in as per the expectation by the regulatory bodies. So moving on here, so any trial related duties and functions not specifically transferred to and assumed by CRO are retained by the sponsor. So as I said, some of the activities can be transferred to a CRO, or all the activities can be transferred. And whatever is not being contracted out to a CRO, that will be retained by the sponsor. And sometimes I also have seen cases where a sponsor have tie up with multiple CROs. So part of the activities will be given to CRO1, some of the activities will be given to CRO2 and CRO3. So there'll be a combined effort going on between multiple CROs and also by the sponsor. This also can happen. And all references to a sponsor in GCP apply to the CRO as well, because CRO is contracted to take up the responsibility of the sponsor. So whatever laws are applicable or the regulations are applicable as per the GCP will also imply to the CRO and to all the vendors working with the CRO as well. So everybody is aligned. So any rule that's applicable to a sponsor is applicable to CRO, and also to the sub vendors who are collaborating or working with the CRO. So these are some of the important points that you should remember when it comes to CRO from the good clinical practices perspective. So now when it comes to the attributes of a CRO, so why CRO is a question always we have, right? So as I said in the beginning, I mean, it will help us ensure that the clinical trial activities are run in an efficient way, right? So along with that, the CROs will also be familiar with any local, international, and ethical guidelines, because it is a repeat business they are doing with multiple pharma clients, right? So, and some of the projects might be very local. So sometimes, like say, we have local projects coming out from the local pharma players, and most of the times it's all international projects or the global projects. And if you are running a trial in US, for example, we have to follow US FDA and then EMEA. So every Japan, so they all have different guidelines. And whenever we are running the trials in these different locations, so we have to adhere to these regulatory guidelines that are provided at different countries. So CROs will be familiar with these local, international, and also ethical guidelines. And when it comes to the service offerings, as I said, a CRO can a sponsor can contract with a CRO for portion of the activity for all of the activity. So it's a flexible service offering that the CRO is providing to any of the client, right? So they have a lot of flexibility. And as I said, sometimes the clients can also work with multiple CRO for a single project. Okay. And then multinational skilled workforce. So why this is very, very important is, like say, if you can imagine a CRO, it's a global company most of the times. So major CRO players that we have today is, they're all global players and they have workforce spread across the location. So I can just take the example of COVID, right? So you all know how hardly everybody was hit with COVID. And sometimes we did not have workforces in a specific company because the COVID cases were high, and we did not have people to work on a specific project. So then the people in other location were able to pick up those projects and deliver on time, because as you all know, I mean, it's a very lengthy process. Clinical trial is a very lengthy process, and we cannot afford to lose any of the timeline, no matter what the situation is, right? So it is very, very important to have this diverse experience spread across the globe, so that way we can support each other. And also another example I can think of is the Ukraine situation. So we might have employees in Ukraine, and now I mean, when I have a deliverable, I cannot ask employees working in that location to work on that project, because I know what this situation they are into, right? So if we are a multinational, if we have multinational skilled workforce, it will be easier for me to reach out to employees in a different location and get their support and still deliver the project on time, right? So that's how important it is to have the multinational skilled workforce. And when it comes to the overall project, as I said, we cannot afford to miss any timelines, right? So it's a bad mark on any CRO. So every CRO will have the project management center of excellence. So where we'll have skilled project managers who will help us come up with a very clearly defined timelines for different milestones. So, and every department within the CRO will try to adhere to that timelines. So, and there is no go, there is no other go. We have to stick to those timelines. And sometimes there might be exceptions, because there might things might change from the client side, or deliverable might move. Those can happen, but very, very rarely. But every CRO will try to adhere to the original timelines that was put across by the project management team. And project management team will also help provide the oversight of the project throughout the phase of the study, right from the initiation till the closeout, to ensure that everybody has good discussion, and if there are challenges in meeting the timelines, they help mitigate those risks and ensure that all the milestones are met. That's how important is to have the project managers. And because we are into this repeated business, and because we have the talent, and because the CROs have the tools and technologies that is required to run the clinical trials efficiently, so the efficiency of the trial will also improve, right? So, and it will also become most cost effective. So if you think of all the parameters that I just spoke about, so it becomes more cost effective, because at no point in time we are stopping the business. So the business continuity will always be there, right? And we are trying to adhere to the timelines. We have the skilled labor who will help us achieve the milestones we have. And we also have the knowledge that is required to run the clinical trials. We have the SOPs. So everything is readily available for a client. So that's how it makes the trials run more efficiently. And that's how it will also help us ensure the clinical trials become more and more cost effective. And also when it comes to the expertise, and for CROs, its employees are the assets, right? So, and everybody will have their own skill set. So we have people coming from different educational backgrounds, depending on the need of the projects that we have, who all come together to achieve the milestone of a project. So the experience itself is diverse, because we have like say people coming from medics, pharma, and we might have IT teams. So I'll come to the different functions of the department, where you will understand what are the different roles that we have within CRO. So this rich expertise will also ensure that we are running the clinical trials very, very efficiently. So moving on, so I think a portion is hidden here. So here I'm going to talk a little bit about selection of CRO by the clients. So what are the things that a client will look forward to when they are selecting a CRO? Okay. So first one is the capability. So like say if I imagine that I am a client giving a project to a CRO, so then I should be convinced to understand that the CRO has the capabilities that I am looking forward to achieve and ensure that my molecule is successful, right? So I might be looking for one of the service or multiple services or end-to-end service. So when I select the CRO, I'll definitely look at what is the credibility of a CRO within this industry and how capable they are. So I'll also look at their history to see how they have delivered, what are the capabilities they have, and what they can add, how they can add value to this whole project to run it more efficiently and also make it more cost effective. So that is one thing the clients will definitely look for. And second one is the experience. So experience in terms of the whole organization and experience in terms of the people who will be working on that project. So that's where the CVs of the employees will become very, very important. And every CRO will have the pool of CVs, and depending on the need of the client, so they'll be able to identify the right resources to be put into that project. And also in terms of the organizational experience itself, so any client wouldn't want to give a trial to a less experienced CRO, right? It might happen during the startup, but everybody will look forward to experienced CROs. So that way the trial can be run efficiently, to ensure that also we have the right technology and tools in place to run the trials in an efficient manner. And then comes the cost. So now when it comes to cost, so as a client, I might have a certain budget, right? So when I'm giving or outsourcing my project to a CRO, so I need to understand what is the cost involved in this whole process, right? So every CRO will have their costing plan for each of the different activities, and that is what gets submitted in the bid defense meeting. So this is one of the parameters that a client will also consider when they are selecting the CRO. And then comes the customer service and relationship. So this is one critical thing. So if you look at the values of any CRO, so I think I'm sure all of them would have customer service as one of the values, because we are contracting with the clients to provide them service, and customer service is very, very important. And managing that relationship with any of the client is also very, very important. So that also is a major player whenever a client selects a CRO to outsource their project. And quality, this is something we cannot miss, we cannot afford to miss, because this is something, I mean, if I am working on a molecule, so a ambition of every client or the pharma company would be to bring that molecule into the market. So we cannot afford to lose out on quality at any point in time. So there will be a lot of quality measures put in place throughout the different phases of the trial, and we'll be providing that those dashboards in terms of what is the quality, what are the issues, and if there are audits, what are the gaps, and put corrective actions in place. So quality also becomes very, very important. So organizations or the clients will definitely look out for what are the quality parameters that this organization has, or the CRO has, and what are the quality gates that they have to ensure that every data point is coming out with quality. Because ultimately, when we are getting a molecule into the market, and of course not all of the molecules will get into the market, as you all know, right? So you must know, we cannot go back and say that okay, something went wrong after the molecule is into the market. That's a big blunder. So quality gates are very, very important at each and every phase of the trial and each and every milestone, and that is something that any client would definitely look out for when they select the CRO. So now coming to the functional areas and departments in a CRO, and I think this is something you're all looking forward to. So there are a lot of departments in a CRO, and I've tried to highlight some of the major departments, and we have other departments as well, but these are the major ones. So we have the medical writing group, and in the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about what each of these teams is responsible for. So we have the medical writing group, clinical data management, quality assurance, IT admin, finance. So these departments will not leave us wherever you go, irrespective of what industry you are in, right? And the same thing with HR and L&D. And when it comes to the specific departments within CRO, we have the Project Management Center of Excellence, and then the Medical and Regulatory Affairs, Clinical Operations, Biostatistics and Statistical Programming, and also the Pharmacovigilance. So these are the major departments or the functions that you can find in any of the CROs. So now let's take a look at what these departments are responsible for. So as I said, today's session is just a high level overview. So we're not going to do a deep dive into any of the departments. And like say, if I have to talk about each of this department, I'm sure each of this department will definitely need more than 1 hour to talk about each of them, right? So for you all to understand, I've tried to make it very, very simple so that you know at a high level what these departments are and what they are responsible for. So let's take a look at what is medical affairs. So as the name states, so this department consists of medically qualified people, and they play a very, very important role in the clinical study design. So for any clinical trial that we run, study design is very, very important, and study design is dependent on the clinical trial protocol. So clinical trial protocol, I would say, is the Bible for the study, and it defines what is the objective, what is the end parameters that we are looking into, what are the safety parameters that we have to look into. So it talks about each and every aspect of how the trial should be run, and also it will also have the information based on the preclinical studies, right? So the medical affairs team is responsible for putting together clinical trial study design to ensure that we are taking necessary measures to ensure the trial is run in a defined manner. Okay. So, and this team is not just at the beginning, but throughout the study, also they are responsible for giving any medical inputs to the project teams. And coming to the next department, which is regulatory affairs. So we have spoken a lot about the regulatory requirements till now. So as I said, every country will have their own regulatory requirements, and it is very, very important to be aligned with those regulatory requirements when you are working on a clinical trial. So the regulatory affair team is responsible for ensuring that we are adhering to that, and also they're responsible for submission of the documents and documents to these regulatory bodies, and also obtaining approvals from these regulatory bodies. So within CRO, the regulatory affairs team will have skilled and experienced people who will be responsible for ensuring that they consider all these parameters and ensure that we are aligned with the regulatory agencies in different locations and have all the documentations in place to run the trial successfully. And then comes the clinical operations group. So this, I would say, the biggest team in the clinical trial process, and it includes the investigators. So when I say investigators, they are the investigators at the investigative sites who will be recruiting the patients and running these clinical trials on the patients. And then we have the clinical research associates, and they'll be part of the CRO. Investigators will not be part of the CRO, but they are contracted with the CRO to run these clinical trials as per the GCP. And then we have the clinical research associates, project managers, study coordinators, clinical trial assistants. So it's a very big team, and these are only the few of the roles that I'm specifying here. But there are a lot more roles within clinical operations group who is responsible for running these clinical trials in the different investigative sites and ensuring that those trials are run in an ethical manner, and also we are collecting the patient data in an ethical manner. Okay, and this team is responsible for making site visits and ensuring the source data verification is done to ensure the right data is getting into the EDC system. And this team is also involved right from the beginning. When I say beginning, so this is the team which is responsible for identifying the investigative sites to run these trials, and also monitoring of the sites throughout the clinical trial process. And database lock is something that happens this is the last phase of the trial when we talk about the different phase of the trial in a clinical trial. So here this team also plays a major role in database lock, where we have to ensure all the data that we have collected is clean. So this is that side that coordinates with the data management team and also the different departments within CRO, along with the investigator sites and the clinical trial assistants we have in the investigator sites, to ensure we are getting the data on time and ensure the data is clean. Okay, so they play a very major role in the overall process. So coming to the data management group. So this department helps in designing the tools and databases to collect the data. So here, when I talk about the databases, so we have a lot of softwares, and some of the examples are Oracle Clinical, Inform, Meditator, Rave, etc. So when the data is collected, so when the trial is run on a patient, the data is collected in EDC system, which we call it as electronic data capture, and the data will be directly fed into these systems. So when the data is fed into this system, the data management team is responsible for ensuring the data is clean. So when I say data is clean, so they'll have a lot of programming edit checks that will be done at the back end by the programming team. So which will help us clean the data and ensure that the data we are collecting is in line with the protocol specifications. Okay. So whenever we see data is incorrect, this team is responsible for raising queries to the investigative sites and ensure that the data point is corrected. So when I say data point is corrected, it should be accurate and correct. So it cannot be like, okay, for example, if the protocol says any subject that enters into this study should be of 18 years age. So like say date of birth, they will enter, investigator sites will enter in the EDC system. The data management team will take a look at it, and if they see that the person or the patient is not meeting that criteria, they'll write back to the investigative sites to seeking clarification, or if there are any errors. So if there is an error that is made by the investigative sites, they'll go and correct it. But in case if the data itself is correct, and if the patient is not falling in that criteria, then we cannot continue with that patient, right? So we'll have to take care all of that. And data management team plays a very, very critical role there in ensuring the data collected is clean and ready for analysis. And within data management, because we have most of the pharma graduates here, we also have a niche department called medical coding. So where this team is responsible for coding all the adverse events and the medications that are taken, and all the adverse events that happens during the course of the clinical trial is coded to verbatim that is in line with the regulatory requirements. Because like say for example, fever can be entered by different physicians or the investigators in different ways. So somebody can write it as high temperature, somebody can write it as pyrexia, somebody can write it as fever. But for the analysis purpose, we want to have a single word for that. And we have dictionaries like Medra and Houdini, through which we'll be able to code all of this to a preferred term that will be used for the statistical analysis before submitting the data to the regulatory authorities. And most of the times, pharma graduates will be part of the medical coding team. And then comes the biostatistics and statistical programming. So here, biostatistic team is responsible for analyzing the study data. So they follow the STTM standards. So with the help of tables, figures, and graphs, once we have all the data in, so they evaluate and they'll interpret the data to ensure whether the study is going in the right direction or not. And if they see that it is not yielding the expected result, then we have to definitely go back to the sponsor and say, this is what we are seeing. So based on which certain decisions will be taken. So this team is primarily responsible for analyzing the data and creating the reports that will be sent to the medical writers for compiling the final report. And then comes the medical writing group. And this team again consists of people who are experts in writing results in a readable fashion. So when I say readable, it should be easily understood. So we need to do the analysis in terms of whether this molecule is really safe to get into the market. So what are the kind of adverse events we have seen? So everything should be written in a clear manner before we submit the data analysis as well as the final report to the regulatory bodies. And this team is responsible for creating that simple report. So they will write the clinical study report to be filed with the sponsor and explaining the outcome of the trial in a very, very simple manner. And moving on to the pharmacovigilance, and this team is also known as drug safety. And here, this team is responsible for activities relating to detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse events. So when I say adverse events, so adverse effects can happen throughout the study, right? And we keep a track of all the adverse events. And this team is responsible for ensuring that all these are detected and ensuring that the adverse events are reported to the safety team and ensuring that the right data is reported. And also this team is responsible for evaluating benefit risk ratio and ensure that it also remains favorable throughout the life cycle of a medicinal product. So when I say benefit risk ratio, it doesn't mean that we can modify the data. So at no point in time, we can afford to modify any data. It should be accurate as it is, as it comes from the site. But we are just helping to clean the data and process that data to ensure it is ready for the safety evaluation, to ensure whether it is ready to go to the market or not. So then comes the quality assurance team. As I said, every CRO will have a internal quality assurance team who is responsible for managing the quality for the study throughout the phase of the trial. And whenever we have the audits conducted by the regulatory bodies or by the clients, so they also play a very, very important role to ensure that We conduct the audit in a expected manner and also report it out, and also ensure that we have put together the respective corrective and preventive actions in place. And then we have the IT team. So as you all know, we cannot do anything without the support of IT. So this is a support team for any CRO or for any organization you go for that matter, which will help us with all the IT infrastructure required by the CROs. And then, so when it comes to the IT, it's not just about providing the assets, but they also have, because we are dealing with the patient data and it is a confidential data, they have to ensure they put all the security measures in place to ensure that we are working in a regulated environment, or there are no phishing attacks happening. So IT security becomes very, very prime importance throughout the clinical trial process, and IT team is responsible for managing the IT security to manage the confidentiality of the data. And then comes the admin and finance. So I don't think I have to talk much about these departments because it's self-explanatory and most of you would know already. So admin and finance team, they again play a very, very important role because we definitely need the admin support to manage the operations and finance team to manage the financial aspects right from the beginning of the trial to the closeout of the trial, because it's very important to ensure that we are aligned to the budget. And it is also important to ensure that we are only doing the activities that are scoped during the beginning of the project, and any deviation from that is called the out of scope, for which we'll have to get the additional budget from the sponsor, and that's where finance plays a very, very important role. And then we have human resource. So as I said, we definitely need the right talent in place to ensure we are catering to the client requirements. And the human resource team is responsible for getting the right talent in place and also ensuring that we are grooming them to the different roles within the organization, ensure we are doing the fair performance review for all of the employees, right, throughout their career progression within the organization. And this team is also responsible for ensuring compliance and also company policies across the organization and also in a specific location. And then we have the training and development, or the learning and development. So this team typically is responsible for catering to all the technical training requirements and also the professional development of the employees, because it's not just work, right? For any employee or any person would always want to grow in their career. And that happens through the support of the training and development team. So we create individual development plans for the employees to ensure they go through required trainings to achieve their career milestones throughout their course within any organization. So these are the important different and the different departments within CRO. There are a lot others, but I've tried to cover the major ones for all of you so that you understand. But there are a lot of other teams, and within each of the department, again, there are multiple roles. Everybody would be playing a different role, right? So there are a lot of things involved, but this is at a very, very, very high level. Okay. So I am just looking at the time. So I know we have very less time. I'll try to make it fast. So this is my last slide, team. So in summary, I think we have tried to understand what is a CRO and what are the duties and functions of the CRO, and why a CRO will be selected by a sponsor, and what are the different functions we have in the CRO. So I hope this was helpful for all of you, and I'll be happy to take questions. And Manoj, I don't know if we can extend by like say 2-3 minutes.
We can extend, Lakshmi, no problem. Don't worry. If you have time, our participants are all lifelong learners. Only those those participants join here who want to learn a lot. And so you may extend, please. Participants, we can extend, right? So please type Y in the chat box if we can extend. And if you're finding it interesting. See, we have all these chats coming in. Rajat says yes, no problem. Shiv Prasad says yes, no problem. Megha says yes, no problem.
Okay.
So
awesome.
yeah, we can extend, no problem.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. So I think, I mean, I hope I was able to, give you at least a little bit information about the CRO, and I'm really hoping that it will be helpful. So I'm happy to take any questions you might have now.
Yeah, Lakshmi, thank you so much. You may please stop sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Participants, how did you like the presentation? Type in one word so that we know that it was useful and we could deliver some value to your existing learning. Type in one word in the chat box so that we know what you felt about the presentation today.
So can I use the Mentimeter for that, Manoj?
Of course, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, please do. Please do.
Yeah.
Rajat says bird's eye view. Megha says good.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for some more. You may use Mentimeter if you want to. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so please, participants, you may go to menti.com and use this code 38914534 to provide the feedback. You may type in one word what your key, takeaway for this session was. Go to menti.com, menti.com on your any browser on your phone and type the code 38914534 and type in one word what was your key takeaway from this session.
So while you are providing your responses, you can also think about the questions you have.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah.
Okay, so we have started getting some responses. Yeah. Excellent presentation. Go on, participants, please, on menti.com, menti.com, and use the code 38914534. You can use any browser from your phone and then start putting the main learning that you had today. Mind blowing. Wow. Nice. Okay, looking forward for some more responses. The webinar was great and really clear what opportunities CROs can provide. Thank you so much. Great, excellent. Looking for some more responses. Okay, the code is 38914534. That's 38914534. You'll have to go to menti.com, menti.com, and use the code 38914534. Please use menti.com and do not put in the chat box. We have started getting responses in the chat box.
Yeah, even chat box is fine. I just wanted to bring it up so that everybody can read it. Even chat
so we are
is fine. Yeah, don't
perfect.
worry.
We are talking about technology. Lakshmi wanted to use technology to use feedbacks.
Right. Yeah.
Excellent, superb fluency. Thank you so much, Suparaj. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a lot of responses coming in, and I'm sure we'll get more of this.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Seen. So it's really good to know that the session was beneficial for all of you. So now I think we'll take the questions. So you can start putting them in the chat window, or I don't know, Manoj, if you want to unmute them.
Yeah, of course. We normally want to unmute people. So if you want to raise the you can raise your virtual hand on Zoom. Please do that, and we'll take unmute you, and you can ask the question directly to Lakshmi. That is always better.
Yeah.
We love to interact. So please raise your hand on Zoom, and we'll unmute you, and you can ask the question directly. Or you can also put in the chat box, no problem.
Yeah.
Whatever ways. We always want people to interact. Okay, so there are some questions coming in. Okay, so Rajat says, prior to getting approval for institutional review, board should be done by the sponsor only. That's a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Rajat. Yeah. So institutional review board, if it is being outsourced, so then it becomes a combined responsibility of the CRO and sponsor if it is handed over in the initial stages. But ultimately, as I said, every responsibility will lie with the sponsor. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Does federal agencies inspect the CROs regularly during the trial process, or there is any coordinator person from the federal agency who looks after the trial constantly?
Okay. So when it comes to the review bodies, so we have different types of audits that will be conducted. So sometimes it could be by the regulatory bodies, as I said. So sometimes they themselves can come, like say for example, US FDA representative can come and do the audit, or sometimes they might contract it out to a different vendor. So on behalf of US FDA or other regulatory body, people might come and do the audits. And similarly, when the client also wants to do an audit, so they themselves can do it from the client side, or they can contract it out. And as I said, internally also we have quality assurance team who will do the audits. And it is not necessary that every study should go through the audit. So sometimes there might be studies where the audit doesn't happen at all. Okay, so and or sometimes it could be multiple times. So they might do one startup audit and close out audit. So it really depends on the need of the client and need of the regulatory bodies. So every for all projects, it may not be the same, is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Absolutely, thank you. And he has another connected question as well. He says, ma'am, you mentioned about investigators that they are not part of the CRO and they are outsourced. Are they hired only for a specific point of study, or they are hired for the first time and stay throughout the contract?
Okay, so if you remember in one slide, I talked about the different stages of a project in a CRO, right? So in stage 2, we talked about the site selection. So when we say site selection, it also depends on the investigator, right? So I mean, we also have blacklist of investigators who are not running the trials in an ethical manner. So when we do the site selection, we need to ensure that who are the investigators associated with that, and they'll stay with us throughout the course of the study. It is not like we'll get into a contract with them only at that point in time and later not, because patient recruitment happens throughout the study, and it's with the support of the investigators we try to manage the overall trial process for any of the clinical trial. And of course, when I say investigator, it's not the sole responsibility. So they will have their support staff within the clinical trial sites or the investigative sites, who will be trained on each of the protocol, who will be trained to conduct these tests, like say if we have to do any laboratory tests. So everybody will be trained, and the lab, including the lab kits, everybody will be shipped by either the CRO or by the client. So we have to ensure the clinical trial is run in an ethical manner and consistently throughout, irrespective of where the trial is being conducted. So it really depends on what we are looking into, and investigators will stay with us throughout the course of the study. Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for answering that, Lakshmi. And thank you, Rajat, for asking so many nice questions that I'm sure most of us have in the mind. But, we know all these pharmacy students, okay, they don't want to ask questions.
Yeah, sure.
That's really funny.
No, please be open. Please be open, I would say, because only by asking questions you will learn more. And I mean, even I may not be able to answer some of the questions, but I'll make every effort to get back to you if I don't know the answer to that.
Absolutely. So if please ask questions. What will happen is if we are not able to answer the questions right away, we have your email ID, so we'll respond to you as an email later on after this session. There are some questions coming in from YouTube as well. So Narhari says, Narhari is a professor at PS College. He says, could you please suggest the best way to identify CRO? And he is basically asking for campus selection. So he suggests, how do we select the best CROs for campus interviews for students?
Okay. So I can talk about my organization, how it happens, because every organization might follow a different strategy. So when we do these intern programs every year, okay, and we have tie up with some of the colleges, the pharma colleges. So what we do is every year we go, we have a plan in terms of how many interns we want to hire, and the internship program will be for 6 months, okay. And we go to these colleges, conduct the interviews and identify the right candidates. We get them into the organization, we train them for 6 months, and then we do an evaluation, and then they're free to join elsewhere. Okay, and this is what most of the companies do. But if you ask me, how do I select a CRO? I think there are a lot of forums. So you will be seeing a lot of postings that is coming from the CRO website. So people can go to the websites of a CRO industry and see what all openings are available. And sometimes you can see the postings in LinkedIn. So it is very, very important to be active on LinkedIn, so you know what positions are coming up, right? Because it's not always easy to make that tie up with a CRO. So it is always good to have that ears and eyes open to see what all opportunities are there, and also prepare your resume in such a way that it is meeting the requirement of any open position. Sometimes what we typically do is we might be looking for you know hiring for data management group, but when we see the CV, the person might have expressed I am interested in joining the pharmacovigilance team,
Yeah.
right? So then I mean, as a hiring authority, I may not look at that profile. I'm just giving you a simple example. So I think it's very important to see what is the open position, what is a requirement, and most important thing is, am I interested to be in that role, right?
Absolutely.
Because you should not get into a role which will not excite you, which will not keep you motivated. Otherwise, you will, I mean, after joining within a couple of months, you'll be desperate to leave, right? So you should know what you want to do and seek out for those opportunities, and always keep your ears and open. And I'm sure this forum is really helping you a lot. Any open positions, I'm sure Manoj is putting, I've seen him doing all of that. So
I'm very selfish in
yeah.
that, Lakshmi. I'm so sorry to say in this, open public forum that I'm very selfish, and I want to, get all these pharmacy students get employed even before they graduate from their colleges. So the
Yeah.
whole objective of conducting all these webinars and session is to, equip them with all the knowledge and connections so that they can plan their career path very easily. And
Yeah.
and I do that this for all the I don't want to connect with any colleges specifically, but then we want to connect with all these companies so that students can get opportunities much early than even they can complete the
Yeah.
courses. So another question connected.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. Another connected question to that would be, what if I have some group of students and I want to get them into your company as interns, how do I reach out to you?
Okay. So you can drop me an email. Manoj has my email ID. So you can drop me an email so I can talk to my recruitment team and see what we can do. Because for selecting any institute, we have certain process that needs to be followed
Perfect.
by the HR team. So I can check what we can do there.
Perfect. So any
Yeah.
college who wants to connect to you as for getting interns to you, they can write an email to you, right?
Yes.
I can
Yes.
share your
Absolutely.
official
Yes.
email ID.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So any college who, or faculty members who are participating here, uh, please do connect with me or Lakshmi directly on LinkedIn, and you may able to get her contact details, and you may send an email to her. And there is, of course, there is a selection criteria from a company as well. So they look out for certain criteria from the college. And once that meets, your students are good to go and join Labcorp as interns. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you. So
And
there
let me
is,
also tell you this, the internship program will not happen throughout the year. So
yeah,
we only do it at certain points in time. Typically during the beginning of the year is when we do the internship program. So
okay,
for this year, I think it's already done, but I think I mean, it's still good to have that connection and see what we can do for the upcoming year.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So every new year will bring new opportunities for the interns.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
Perfect. So there is another question, Lakshmi, for you. This is from Satish. He says, "What
Mhm.
is centralized monitoring and scope on clinical trials?"
Okay, so centralized monitoring is picking up now. So centralized monitoring group, again, I mean, they do the holistic review of the data. And also, as the word says, centralized monitoring, you might be hearing a lot about the decentralized clinical trials
Yeah,
nowadays, right? So, I mean, as I was saying, along with our knowledge, technology also plays a very important role. And the primary objective of any CRO is to ensure we bring the molecules sooner into the market, right? So the centralized monitoring group and through the decentralized clinical trial process, so we'll be able to achieve that in a faster pace. And of course, in centralized monitoring, again, there are multiple different roles available. I think we would need a different session for centralized monitoring group, and maybe we should invite an expert who is in that area, right, to get those answers. But I can try to find out, what specifically they do and how they can, what are the different roles that might benefit the pharma group.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for answering that. So I don't see any questions. Participants, if you have any questions, you are free to raise your hand for another 1 minute. We are there. Please do raise your virtual hand. You can ask the question directly to Lakshmi, or else we shall close the session in next 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just waiting if there are
Okay.
some questions. No,
Yeah. So
on
there is
YouTube.
one thing I wanted to share, Manoj. So I told everybody that I'll share the story of my career, and maybe I'll just take 2 minutes for that.
Please do that. Please do
Okay.
that.
So as you might have seen my profile, right? So I'm a BPharm graduate, right? So then I did the executive management certification. So that's a different thing. So that was during my professional career that I did. So when I wanted to get into a job, so I when I finished my college at that point in time was I was very passionate about getting into sales. So I got into sales first. Okay, so I think I was there for about 1 year, 3 months there, and then I also have done my D Farm. So on that basis, I got a government job as pharmacist. So I went into that pharmacist role also, but it did not really excite me at all. So I worked there as 3 months, and then I left the pharmacist job. And then when I got this opportunity, so before entering into Labcorp, I was working with IQVIA. So at that point in time, I had no clue about what CRO industry is all about. So I just got a call from somewhere, and I thought, why not try? And I just gave the interview, and I got selected. And then I entered into the CRO industry. So when I joined, I absolutely had no clue about what I'm going to do. So it was all into that learning. So when I entered into the data management group in the CRO. So in the data management group, then I moved into the medical coding team. So I stayed there for a couple of years, and then so I was into core operations, and then I moved into medical coding team. So then again I came back into core operations, so where I was handling whereas I was playing the role of a line manager and also handling a couple of key accounts within the organization. And then at some point in time I felt like I need to change because this is getting too monotonous for me. And something I'm really passionate about is switching the roles and trying out different things. So that's when I got into quality management group. So by then I had the process knowledge of how the data management team works, and I know what were the gaps we had. So something that really excited me was the quality management group. So I moved into quality management group. So it's not quality assurance. So quality management was a different group altogether, where we worked on a couple of initiatives where we identify some of the issues we had seen on the projects, right from the documentation in terms of managing the queries, what kind of issues were there, and putting processes in place so that the quality expected quality can be achieved. So that kept me moving for a couple of years, and then I moved into the process excellence team. So process excellence team is again, it was not just for the data management group, but we were looking at the organizational level. What are the process improvements that we can initiate? So we had a couple of projects where we brought in a couple of new tools to do the automated reviews and stuff like that. So that really kept me for a long time. And that's when I got the opportunity for the L&D team. So I had no clue from pharmacy how I moved into the L&D role. So it was just that passion and the opportunities that came in through my way, and I was fortunate enough to get all of these opportunities that really helped me grow in and grew myself in my career. So when I entered into L&D, I did not know ABCD of L&D. All that I had done in my previous roles was just delivering some of the trainings here and there. But I got into this role 4 years ago, and I learned a lot. And I must say, I mean, the learning keeps me growing, and it keeps me exciting. And I have learned a lot in the last 4 years on how an L&D team can play a crucial role. Though we are into support role, we play a crucial role in creating the careers for people and building their careers, and also providing the training required to do their day-to-day job. So my advice to all of you is, see, we have a lot of certification courses available, lot of trainings available, but don't stop. Continue to join these sessions. You can and draft a plan for yourself. You should know what you want to do, right? So after you complete your graduation or post graduation, so plan for yourself what you want to do. And one thing you keep in mind is what really excites you. Don't get into any role that doesn't keep you excited for a long time. So I mean, if you have tried and if you don't have any opportunity, that's the last thing you may want to do. but try for things that really makes you excited, keeps your excitement on for years together. And once you enter into any organization, I'm not talking about just the CRO, there are a lot of opportunities, right? So you can get trained. So there'll be teams who will train you for different roles. So you can get trained, you can create the plan, individual development plan for yourself, and get into those different roles. So only entry is important. Then what becomes important is how you want to grow, where you want to grow. So that is one piece of advice that I want to share with all of you.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for that wonderful story. And, I have been connected with you for 22 years now, and been seeing you, how you have grown to, head one of the largest organizations, L&D team, and it is excellent. It's an inspiring journey. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks, Manoj.
Thank you so much. We'll take one live question from Supa. Supa, you are most welcome to unmute. If you want, you can also go live with your video and then ask the question.
Hi, Lakshmi.
Hi, Supa.
So Lakshmi was my classmate in D Pharma.
Wow.
Yeah. My classmate. I was a classmate in D Pharma. I have seen her grown from 0 to 100, I must say.
Wow.
I don't have any doubt, actually. I just wanted to put my words across along with her words. Just join my few words of me along with how I have seen her grow from 0 to 100, I must say. Lakshmi and her husband, both Praveen, I've seen them both grow from the roots. They have grown and they have become a tree in front of me. I've seen them grow in the past 20 years. So I just want to put a word across the people who are just entering into the pharma field. So Lakshmi is there to help you. I know. Do take do take reviews from these guys. Do stretch your hand. They're always ready to help you. Hold your hand. So do take advantage of all these webinars, and especially take whatever you can from my friend Lakshmi and Praveen. They're always there to help you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Supa. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
And sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. That was so nice. Thank you so much. Thank you. So with this, Lakshmi, thank you so much for the insightful presentation. Indeed, it was a complete overview of how contract research organizations work and what kind of opportunities they have for our pharmacy professionals. I'm sure today's session was a high-level presentation and it gave the complete information though. So Lakshmi shared almost all informations with our pharmacy professionals and faculty members should know and know to plan a beautiful career path in the CRO. This session would also be useful for companies and organizations who are looking for the services of CROs. Your presentation today would help them select the CRO with their pre-informed knowledge. Lakshmi highlighted clearly that CRO is a multidisciplinary functional organization and offers numerous careers paths like medical writing, medical affairs, medical coding, pharmacovigilance, IT, HR, training or learning and development, and much more. Thank you so much, Lakshmi, for that wonderful presentation and insightful indeed. And thank you for being a helping hand for all of the pharmacy professionals. And I must say that you will be receiving a lot of connection requests after this presentation. And many ladies specifically, many of them, they have reached out saying that they were on a career break and they are looking for new opportunities. I'm sure they'll have a chance to connect with you, and we hope to get them placed somewhere in some organizations. So thank you so much for being with us, and I thank every participant who stayed till the end of this presentation. We spent almost 1.5 hours now on a Saturday afternoon. You could have done so much things, but you stayed with us and learned something. And I personally learned a lot of information about contract research organizations. Thank you so much, Lakshmi, and thank you so much all the participants. My special thanks to Supa, who came in and shared her thoughts and journey. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manoj, for this forum. I think it's really a great forum and really appreciate you for putting this together. I know it's not easy. but I think your motivation is on and you keep it going, and really hats off to you, Manoj.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
It
and
is all
please,
because
yeah.
of you. It is all because of, people like you who are there in my lives. And of course, people like all the participants who, no matter what, they at least plan to attend these Saturday sessions. So because of them, the motivation is always high. The Josh is always high, of course. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And
Yeah.
all the participants, some of them have put, asked for the email ID and all. You'll get an email from me with details of Lakshmi's LinkedIn contact details, and you can send a connection request. Please do not start spamming LinkedIn request. Just send a formal request with the information that you need, and I'm sure she'll reconnect back and help you out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. And for everybody, I just wanted to let you know that I'm not very active on the social medias. So in case if you don't get any response from me, please reach out to Manoj. You can take my phone number and you can directly call me.
Not a
Because
problem. I'm
yeah,
always there for that.
yeah,
No
yeah,
problem. I'll coordinate all of that, Lakshmi, for you.
yeah. Thank you, Manoj, for that.
So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Lakshmi, for that wonderful session today. And with this, we'll close the session for today. And next week, we'll meet again for exploring careers in medical writing. So do join us at 2 p.m. to next Saturday. Our speaker is a very experienced one again next week. So next week, medical writing. And thank you so much for today's session. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for patient listening. Bye-bye. Thanks, Manoj.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Have
Thanks,
a great day.
Supa. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye. Bye.